How's it going, guys? Peshcats here. Now, I haven't uploaded a video in about a week. The last video I uploaded was the deck profile I did with Cody for Fate UBW 2, and since then the WGP Japan Nationals happened, and if you guys are on forum or Reddit or really any Facebook group, you guys probably already know the results of that tournament. It was the 12-man invitational. They took like the best players from all of the regional tournaments, and the 4 decks that were on top were Sword Art Online in first place, Idolmaster Cinderella Girls in second, Guilty Crown in third, and To Love Ru Darkness in fourth. So today what I'm going to be doing is analyzing 3 of the 4 decks. I'm not going to be analyzing Guilty Crown because, well, first of all, I don't think I'm as qualified to talk about Guilty Crown as I am about the other 3 decks, but I just want to highlight a few of the trends that I have seen and some other people have pointed out to me, and just give my opinion on like what I think those trends represent, as well as talk about some of the card choices that the players made with their decks. Okay, so the first deck we're going to be taking a look at is the To Love Ru deck, and some players have like just pointed out to me that To Love Ru is like the root of, I don't want to call it the problem, but it's the reason that these decks that I'm about to show you were built in the way that they are. So first we need to take a look at the really highlight card apart from the Yami. I want to take a look at the level 1 line. We have the Mekon 1-0 Climax combo. So for those of you unfamiliar with her effect, if all characters on your side of the field are either a transformation or a housework trait character, then she becomes a 5/5 from a 4/5. So she gets vanilla stats. It's very easy to accomplish this because the only character in the deck that doesn't fit one of those 2 traits is the Yui Suicider. And her other effect is a Climax combo with this Climax right here, the Taiyaki Keychain. If she reverses the battle opponent, you get to search your deck for either a transformation or a housework trait character. So the reason that this Mekon is such a big deal in comparison to other unreversed Climax combos is the extremely high power potential that the card is able to reach. So assuming your field does not have Yui on it, it's going to be a 5/5. You add in the Climax, which is in this case a gold bar, adding another 1,000, bringing it up to 6K. We also have this 1/1 Yami. Did I say 6K? I meant 6/5. Okay. Anyways, so we have this 1/1 Yami, and she has 2 effects. One of them being characters in front of this with either transformation or housework trait get 500 power, as well as hand encore. And the other effect is a Climax combo with the same Climax, the Taiyaki Keychain. When you play the Climax, you can give 2,000 power to any character on your side of the field. So factoring in the 500 point boost as well as the 2,000 point boost from the Climax combo, this brings our Mekon from 4/5 originally, 4/5 base, up to now 9,000 power, which is really high. But that's not the end of it. We also have, of course, the Pucci Mekon, which is able to give 1,500 power to a transformation or housework character when you play it. So throw that into the mix, and we have a grand total of 10,500 power. So that's a really big number. But what does that actually mean for other decks? So as an example, I'm going to bring up the To Love Ru deck, not the To Love Ru, the Idolmaster deck here. So if we take a look at the level 1 line, the Idolmaster deck is running 11 level 1s. We have 4 copies of the Minami Climax combo, 3 of the Minami that gets power on play, 2 Konako level 1 Suiciders, and 2 Rina supports. We can also take a look at the Sword Art deck list. It was running 4 of the Yuki Climax combo, 4 Kiritos, and 2 Shinon 1/1s, and 1 copy of the 1/1 Shinon. So one major thing that I noticed was that between the 3 decks, the To Love Ru deck, the Sword Art deck, and the Idolmaster deck, they were all going for like sort of a high burst power level 1 game. The cards that they used gain high power on the owner's turn, but then they go back down to a lower power level on when it goes into the opponent's turn. So why is that? My theory on this is that because the cards like the Mekon are able to burst so high in power, like I said, 10,500, that players didn't feel like it was worth it to play higher power level 1s, like cards that have high power on both players' turns, because nothing was really high enough to defend against the 1-0 Mekon or other sets that are able to burst really high at level 1. And so as a result, we see a lot of the level 1s that people are using are costless level 1s that are able to get high burst power when they come into play. So some examples of this. We have the 1-0 Yami here, the Puchi Yami for Tulovru. It's a 105k, and on your turn it gets 2k if all of your characters are transformation or housework. So it becomes a 7,000, but then on the opponent's turn it goes back down to 5. If we take a look at the Tulovru, why do I keep doing that? If we take a look at the Idolmaster deck, the Idolmaster Cinderella Girls deck, we have 4 copies of the Minami Climax combo. That's able to burst up to 7k before supports. And the Minami right below it can burst up to 7.5. But at the end of the turn, they all go back down to their normal power level. Same with the Sword Art, almost the same. We have 4 copies of the Yuki and 4 copies of the Kirito, both of which have the effect where when it comes into play, it gets 500 power for every avatar net character on your side of the stage. So the Yuki, I believe, is a 4k base, and it gets up to 6.5, while the Kirito gets up to 7.5, assuming you play it on a full board. Now, so that's how I think like Tulovru is like shaping like the level 1 game. Players are choosing to play these costless, high burst power beaters, just to be able to kill stuff, because they know that their cards are probably going to die on the next turn, because like people are playing these high burst climax combos. Now, this brings me to the next thing. As long as we're on the Sora deck, we have 2 copies of the 1-1 Shinon. Now, the other 2 decks, they decided not to play any offensive 1-1s. The Yami 1-1 in the Tulovru deck, I feel is like kind of a different role than what the Sword Art deck was trying to accomplish. Now, so why the 1-1 Shinons? Now, what I noticed as I looked at the deck was that it doesn't have a lot of ways to pay out stock at level 0 or level 1. As you can see here, if you take the 1-1 Shinons out of the equation, this deck only has really like 4 ways to pay out stock on demand during the main phase, and those are the Sleeping Knights Brainstorms. So the deck doesn't have a lot of ways to pay out stock on demand. They do also have the Yuki Climax combo. If you attack with that first, you can pay out a Climax that's on top of your stock. But outside of that, it's just the 4 Sleeping Knights Brainstorms. So I feel like the Shinons weren't so much used for a beater as much as it was used as a stock out. If we take a look at the other 2 decks, they have a lot more ways to pay out stock at level 0 or 1. The Idolmaster deck has 8 cards that can use to pay out stock. We have the 4 Konako Brainstorms as well as the 4 Mirias that allow you to pay 1, clock 1, search the deck. And in the Tulovru deck, we have a ton of ways to pay out stock at level 0 or 1. We have the 4 Brainstorms here with the Mekons. We have this 1 Mia support way up here in the top left, 3 copies of the 1-1 Yami, and 3 copies of this event, which is Search to Discard 1. One more thing that supports this theory that I have is the lack of level 1 counters in all of these decks. The Sword Art Online deck went with 1 level 1 counter, and that was the Shinon counter. And I feel like that was more used as a stock out or a mill 3 rather than as a counter. Of course, if you can use the counter to kill something, then by all means go for it. But I feel like it had more of a utility role rather than going for raw power. If we look at the Idolmaster deck, this deck actually went with no counters at level 1. So it basically completely forfeits the level 1 game to decks that have on reverse climax combos, such as the Tulovru deck, which also went with only one copy of a 1/0 counter. So with all of the level 1 characters' base power being as low as they are, and the lack of level 1 counters to protect your level 1s with, these decks are running a lot of Advantage Engine at level 1, allowing them to just replenish their hand, get more cards, and keep stuff on the field to continue attacking. Specifically, all 3 of the decks were running maximum copies of their Brainstorms. So in the Sword Art deck, we have 4 copies of the Sleeping Knights. In the Idolmaster deck, 4 copies of the Konako. And in the Tulovru deck, 4 copies of the Mikon. In addition to that, all the decks were running a Climax combo at level 1 with which to gain card advantage. This is a very common trend in a lot of decks. Like tons of decks will run advantage level 1 Climax combos. So that's nothing new. But we have the Yuki level 1 here for Sao, Minami for Idolmaster, and of course the Mikon 1/0 for the Tulovru deck. So by using cards like these to replenish their hand constantly at level 1, they can keep their hand full of stuff to attack with. All the decks were playing some sort of discard outlet. Discard outlets are obviously very important in Weiss Schwarz. If you have a lot of climaxes in your hand, you're going to want to be able to have some way to get them out of your hand into your waiting room so that they can go back into your refresh. And some players like to play the pay 1, drop 1 searchers, like Sword Art Online has the Kirito or the Silica Searcher to discard a card and search the deck, but a lot of these decks went for the costless options. So we take a look at this deck. It ran 3 copies of the Silica Suicider on top of 4 copies of the Yuki Suicider. So 7 Suiciders in total, but I feel like the Silica was played more for the role of the hand fix that it gives. Being able to top check the top card of your deck, add it to your hand, discard a card, is one of this deck's ways to get climaxes out of the hand. One of the other ways that they had was the 1/0 Yuki climax combo. On attack, you pay 1, and you discard a card, and you search your deck for 2. So that's another way that they can get excess climaxes out of their hand. The Idolmaster deck ran 4 copies of the Rin Akatsuki clone that lets you look through the top 4 cards of your deck for a blue card. But apart from that, it looks like that one was the only discard outlet that they went for. But maybe it was enough to get the job done. And the Tulovru deck ran what looks like 7 discard outlets. So we have 4 copies of the Mikon Brainstorm. When it comes into play, you can discard a card to choose a transformation or housework character from your clock, add it to your hand, and then clock the top card of your deck. So that's one way to get cards out of your hand. And they also ran 3 copies of the Yami event that lets you search 2 and discard a card. Okay, next let's take a look at the level 2. So a lot of the decks right now in the current metagame don't like to run a lot of level 2. Usually it's like you run supports, maybe some utility level 2 counters, and a lot of people like to go for early drop level 3s. And that pattern is no different here. So we take a look at the Sword Art deck. It's running 4 level 2s. We have 1 copy of Check 6, 1 Machine of Ice, and 2 copies of the Leaf Counter. Now the Leaf Counter, don't even get me started. We're not going there. But we do have 1 copy of the Check 6 and 1 copy of the Machine of Ice. Now, the Machine of Ice, I feel, is an interesting choice. With so many people like running low counts of counters at all. And the only real other deck that was running meaningful counters was Tulovru, which is the Darkness counter. But we'll get to that in a bit. I think the Machine of Ice was a rather odd choice for at least the current state of the Japanese metagame. if the player was able to recognize that like players weren't going to be playing a lot of counters, then I think this was a rather interesting choice. But by only running one copy, like he has the option if he needs it. The check 6. Once you hit that level 2 stage, you're going to want to be able to address your opponent's early drop level 3 if they are playing one. Other than that, it's just a one of, just like the Machine of Ice. So if you need it, search it. If not, just leave it there. The Idolmaster deck ran 3 level 2s. It ran the Mayu counter for an anti-change. It also ran 1 copy of the Rena 2-1, which I thought was pretty interesting. The Rena is a 2-1 8K. You can play it at level 1 if you have 2 blue and 2 red characters on your stage. And considering that this deck is pretty much just blue and red, that shouldn't be too hard to accomplish. So the Rena could probably come out pretty easily. And the last level 2 that the Idolmaster player ran, which is one of my personal favorite Idolmaster characters, is the Tutu now. So she's a 7K base, and for every other character you have on this stage with music trait, she gets 500 point boost, so she goes up to 229K, and she has Hand Encore. So she's a 2-soul beater, which with her Hand Encore ability you can keep on the field by discarding all of your other crappier characters, and just keep a 2-soul beater on the field and just hit face. So pretty simple card there. The Telovru line actually only ran 1 level 2, which was the Mekon here. I believe this one was the anti-change. I'm not 100% sure. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the anti-change, though, as all three, that would mean that all 3 of the decks were running some sort of anti-change option. We have the check 6 for the Sword Art, Mayu for the Idolmaster, and I'm assuming that's anti-change, so that would mean that all the 3 decks had an anti-change. Now let's move on to the level 3. So we're going back to Sword Art Online. First off, we have 2 copies of the Kirito, Search for the Holy Sword. So this is the deck's like prime 2-drop because it has a very easy early play condition. It lets you draw more cards because it has an on-play draw 2, drop 1 effect, and because it is a high power character on the opponent's turn, it's not going to be easily removed from the field. So it's a good card to play on your level 2, and hopefully it'll just stay on the field into your level 3 game. Of course, we have 4 copies of Last Shot Shinon. This is pretty much the finisher of choice for Sword Art decks. It's a healer on top of a massive burn 4, which can end games like so much damage. That's 7 damage on 1 card. So if your opponent gets unlucky, then Shinon will just close out games for you. Now, the last choice of level 3 for the Sword Art deck was the 2 copies of Dignified Strength Asuna. Now, Lychee Pundit on Reddit pointed out to me that this guy wasn't playing the Yuki Clock Shooter, which I agree with him on that. I'm looking at the deck list, and there's a lot of green. There's plenty of green to accommodate using the Yuki Clock Shooter. At the same time, with the knowledge that the metagame has a lot of very weak characters, like I said earlier, all the level 1s are on the weak side, so you have a lot of very easy targets for Yuki to shoot to clock. At the same time, what he did here with the Asuna was he's only running 6 yellows. He's running 4 copies of Asuna Invites to Party and the two Asunas, so it's pretty difficult to get your yellow into your clock or your level in order to bring out the Asuna. And I just feel like it would have been a lot easier for him to just play the Yuki Clock Kick instead of the Asuna. Now, the Asuna is another healer, and it does have the ability to give soul to all your characters, so you can kind of manipulate the amount of damage that you're doing during the late game. But at the same time, I still think that the Yuki probably would have been a better choice here. Next up in the Idolmaster deck, let's start with the 3 copies of the Anzu. So the Anzu was the Idolmaster player's early summon level 3. He did also run the Now 2-2 as a solid level 2 drop, but having the 3 Anzus is also pretty good. The Anzu herself is pretty strong. She has 9k base power, but she can go up to 11k with a full field because she gets 500 for every other music character you have in play, and she heals on play. So you can get her out at level 2 and heal off some damage, and yeah, simple as that. The other level 3s that he went with were 2 copies of Miku, 2 copies of Cherry, and 1 copy of Kaede. So the Miku and the Cherry were pretty much there as serving as this deck's finishers, both the Cherry and the Miku having burn 1 effects. The Cherry on play, you reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a music character, you burn 1. And the Miku has a climax combo with Over, which is the Stock Soul climax over here, that could potentially allow it to burn for 1. The Kaede, I felt, was a pretty interesting choice. It's a card that allows you to stay alive longer at level 3. And I think it was in this deck for the sole purpose of being a tech option versus a deck that will deal multiple instances of damage at level 3. So big example of this would be Tulovru with the Yami climax combo. So interesting choice here. I'm not saying it's bad. I like the Tech 1. But yeah, that pretty much sums up the level 3 line for Idolmaster. And finally, moving on to our Tulovru deck. This is like the most basic setup for level 3 for a Tulovru deck. 4 Yamis, because that card is insane. 3 Mikon for some heals. And 3 copies of the Darkness counter. So I brought this up earlier, and I feel like the Machine of Ice Shinon, specifically against this deck, the Tulovru deck, is ineffective for using it against Darkness counters because the Yami has the Hexproof ability, so she cannot be targeted by the opponent's effects, assuming your whole board is Housework or Transformation, which is, like I said earlier, that's super, super easy in this deck. So you wouldn't be able to target a 3-2 Yami with the Machine of Ice Shinon's effect in order to try to block the Darkness counter. So again, I'm not quite sure about the Machine of Ice choice, but the Tulovru deck, level 3 lineup, pretty self-explanatory. Not much that I need to explain here. It's just very powerful level 3 line. So that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and be sure to leave some comments down below. Tell me what you guys think. Tell me if you guys learned something, and I'll see you guys next time. This has been Peshcats. Bye.